All right. Good evening, everybody. No folks are still hopping in here. Want to welcome you guys all to the what month is this? May. It's been one of those days. I had to someone remind me today was Wednesday, so it's one of those days. Want to welcome you guys to our May LD meeting. I want to thank all you guys for signing in and joining us. If we haven't met, I'm Patrick Brown, the chair of LD11 Democrats. Want to welcome you to the meeting. Just want to go over a couple of just kind of housekeeping things before we get things going here. Like I said, we want to have a good, informative evening. We got some great guest speakers and everything. So, a couple of things we just ask. Like I said, if you're on the agenda to speak, or if you're recognized to speak, just please turn your camera on if you could. If you want your camera on during the entire meeting, or you want to turn it off, that's up to you. That's cool. Also, just please make sure that if you're not recognized to speak, that you have that mute button clicked, just so that there's no any kind of background noise or anything that might distract our speakers or whatnot. Again, like I said, I'll recognize anyone who either is on the agenda, or if like I said, would like to be recognized to speak in the meeting. If you do have any questions, comments, things like that, please drop those in the chat. Our board will be monitoring the chat, and so either they'll just answer the question directly, I'll chime in, or like I said, if somebody in the meeting kind of knows the answer or whatnot, go ahead and feel free to answer that question. So if you are following along at home, I'll go ahead and drop the agenda into the chat, although let me where the link is. We'll drop the agenda into the chat, that way so you can kind of follow along at home. Here's a link. Don't feel like you got to rush to write that down. We'll go ahead and drop that in the chat here in just a moment. All right, so we're going to get going things with officer reports. I'll kind of kick things off here. So I don't have a whole lot to talk about. I will talk about one of the highlight issues that's going on. As you know, that we're kind of right in the knee-deep aspect of budget negotiations. I know a budget has, and I'll say kind of with air quotes, kind of been agreed on for the most part. Although, like I said, there's a lot, to it. If you haven't had an opportunity to, read what's in at least the budget that is kind of being negotiated, discussed. I know the House voted earlier today, Senate voted last night, type of thing. So of course, obviously goes to the governor for signature. Once all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted in this whole thing. One thing I definitely recommend is read the budget. If, like I said, if you're just hearing what's in it, or you're just kind of going like, oh, I heard this because I saw it on Facebook or whatever, I always recommend people to, go to the source document, read it, take a look at it. My hot take, like I said, it's just one person's opinion. Again, read the budget. There's a lot of things in it. There's some things that, you could argue are, good things. You could argue that, there's a lot of stuff in it is not very good. And you can argue that you can tell that there was some negotiations along the way. Way I see it is like, when you look at budgeting, there's an old saying with budgeting that budgeting often a budget kind of tells you what someone's values are when it comes to budgeting. And my take when I look at this, the budget from my reading of it comes down to we have a state legislature where the Republican Party still holds a slight majority, and that there are some issues that like they can say, they're hills they're willing to die on, or at the very least they're willing to just kind of put everything on hold or freeze the operation of the state government and everything in between over those issues. So I guess my challenge to anyone who's looked at that budget and said, this budget is not good, or I'm not happy with this budget, or what have you, my challenge is, okay, how do we fix that? Democrats get the majority in the legislature. Then it doesn't matter what the Republicans feel, or what issues that don't align with ours are just not really good for like 70%, 80% of the state. Then they get to just kind of have to, sit with the fact that Democratic Party will move with the what the people of Arizona actually value and actually want. So again, like I said, I would definitely recommend taking some time to, read the budget for yourself, get an idea of what's in there, what's there. There's, money for, for education, while we know that the ESA did not get the cap. And that's a whole other crazy conversation. We've got one of our guests tonight, Beth Lewis from Save Our Schools, will definitely, discuss, some of the details there. But like I said, I always say, be an informed Democrat, be an informed PC, look at, what's there in black and white, and just like I said, educate yourselves for any discussions you're having on, social media or at the coffee table or, what have you. So that being said, I do want to talk about two events that we have coming up in the next couple of weeks. The first one is the Valley of the Sun Juneteenth celebration. That's going to be happening at East Lake Park. LD11's been, we've been pretty awesome about having a table there at that event. And so we are looking for folks to help volunteer and man that table. The things that we'll be doing there is we'll be doing voter registration. We'll be doing, voter outreach and what I like to call community relations, meaning just, talking to folks, about what we do as a Democratic Party. And part of, I would say that area is part of LD11. So of course, we'll be talking to people who are part of our constituency group. So, interface with the people, let them know what's going on, answer questions about, things that, that's going on with the party or just, of, note for the community in general. But like I said, we'd love to have as many folks, volunteer some time to help man the table. The event runs from about 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. So if you're just going just kind of for the event and go hang out with us and do a little bit of volunteer work, that's kind of when the event starts and ends. We'll be setting up about 4 o'clock because, we got to get there, get everything set up. And then typically we kind of shut everything down around like 8 p.m. because that's usually about, it gets dark and really kind of the event kind of turns more into like a live concert celebration type of stuff. So if you, like I said, we'd love to have as many folks as possible volunteer. We'll drop the link in the chat so that you're able to sign up for a shift at the event. One thing I do recommend is bring a chair because they supply us with like 4 chairs for the booth. So if we have more people and you want to sit down, bring a folding chair. So that's my pro tip for this one. The other event that's taking place at the end of the month is a blood drive. It's actually being operated by Healthcare Rising Arizona. So they're doing a blood drive. I guess they're going to put a Mobilize link together. So we'll try and have that in our newsletter so that, you just click the link and register. However, we're going to drop Carly Gadsbury. She's a contact for Healthcare Rising. So she's basically just told me share her phone number with you guys so that anyone's interested in donating blood, they can just contact her and she'll get you signed up with a spot. So, that is everything for me. I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to our first vice chair. So Dave, have you signed in yet? Okay, I'm not seeing our first vice chair here. So we're gonna be hopping around a little bit tonight. So Mr. Sergeant at Arms, I'm gonna have you go ahead and go. We're a little bit out of order today.
Good evening, everyone. This is Robert Branscombe, Sergeant at Arms. I don't have anything really this evening, but just keep your eye on the budget. I know that our chair mentioned that before, and it is essential that we continue to work on that. I know that the Democrats all, I think except for one, voted against it, against the governor, and that's not a real good look, but we have to make sure that we stay true to our principles. So let's just keep an eye on the budget and make sure that, we push to get that majority so we won't go through this again. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Sergeant at Arms. So we'll go ahead and bring it back around to our treasurer with our treasurer report. Hey, Sadi, we're not able to hear you. I'll just try it again.
Okay, can you hear me now? I just
Yep,
connected.
we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. Sorry I'm a little bit late. I kind of thought we were meeting in person, so I just had to rush back home. Okay, so as of April, last month I filed our first quarterly report for January and March financials. And as of April 30th, we have $2,173.39 in our Baker account. We raised $484 and spent $717.23. All our donation came from ActBlue, and we had some from our recurring donors, and we got a $250 donation from our representative Marcelina Quinones. So I appreciate him donating and appreciate everyone who donated. We'll share a link if you guys want to be a recurring donor. We don't take any billionaires' money. We rely on small donations to help elect Democrats in the future. And as you can see, we have our monthly expenses, like for Google and MailChimp, is ActBlue's. And as we talked about 2 months ago, we had like a fraudulent charge, and then we got the money refunded, and they recorded the refund twice last month. And now they took out our double refund. And last month we paid $300 to Dr. Lester, our speaker. I appreciate him coming last month to talk about our discussion about race. And we'll share you a link if you guys want to donate later on.
All right, thank you, Sadia. About the millionaire part, I mean, if that millionaire, shares our democratic values and let's help get Democrats elected, we will take your money. So, just I'm putting that out there. Any millionaires who want to, throw a little money to get some Democrats elected. So, all right. I see our first vice chair, Dave Brown, on the call. So, Dave, not to put you on the spot, would you like to? We're kind of doing a little bit of officer, potpourri here. So, if you have anything you'd like to share with the LD, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Patrick. Let me get myself. I'm still having hassles with Zoom. Anyway, I was watching PBS KAET Horizon tonight at 5 o'clock, and I don't know if any of you other folks had a chance to see it. Very interesting. It was an interview with Chris Mays, who was not all that happy with Governor Hobbs. It might be interesting for you to watch it. They repeated on, again, KAET Channel 8 on Cox or over the airwaves at 10 o'clock tonight. And they're also, I believe, available on YouTube. It appears that Governor Hobbs has cut a deal with the Republicans in reference to the situation with the universal student voucher that is available. And there's a real concern among certainly Chris Mays and among, I think, a fair number of Democrats about basically giving fairly generous vouchers to relatively wealthy people to send their kids to private or parochial schools rather than spending their own money. And that doesn't seem to me, and I think to a lot of people, as within our democratic norms, and that we think that that money could be better used and better applied to people who cannot afford private schools and people who get universal schooling in our public school system. And she was also critical about the lack of funding for her own department and for the lack of responsibility in the water rights in the water department, which is not lawyers that are under her supervision, for their generous or for their failure in the last 30 odd, 40 odd years to make audits of our underground water supplies in Arizona. Apparently, they've only done this a couple of times ever since the water rights department was created during the Bruce Babbitt administration. Anyway, it is worth your spending your time looking at that. I'm wondering if Katie Hobbs is going to be vetoing. You know, she does have a line item veto. And once the legislature adjourns, probably in the next few days, whether she'll actually apply that line item veto to her claims that she really doesn't like the universal voucher. That would be my suggestion to her, but she doesn't pay any attention to me. Anyway, so it's worth your time to watch that. And other than that, and the fact that we may have the US government going into default before our next meeting, nothing's going on. Back to you, Patrick.
All right, thank you, Dave. Nothing but great news for government type stuff. All right, so let's get into some business here. I know a lot of you guys are here for some of our big business. So as you guys know, and I'll give it a little bit of an introduction before we get into the details here. So one of our tasks tonight here is we need to pass bylaws for LD11. So I'm going to kind of give a bit of the abbreviated version of what's going on, so everyone's kind of at least up to speed. Because a lot of this was in emails and things like that, but like I said, just you want to make sure everyone's following. So going back a little bit, state legislature, I want to say back in 2018, passed some legislation that kind of, I would say for the most part, really wasn't on a whole lot of people's radar, that redefined a political organization. And so the basically outcome of that is it established that LDs such as ours are considered political organizations, and so as such we have to file with the Secretary of State's office. We have we're for the most part independent democratic entities within our legislative districts. It also means that as organizations, we need to have like our own set of like bylaws and things like that. So what it kind of did to kind of the hierarchy of how everything kind of functioned, within the Democratic Party within Arizona, prior to 2018, you kind of had a bit of a hierarchy of, the state party, then the respective county party, and then the LDs, kind of at the bottom of that pyramid, so to speak. And so what the law fundamentally did is that it kind of removed that kind of middle part of it. So the county party, of course, still exists. It still, operates. However, that you can say that hierarchy where, say, the LDs are, basically subordinate to the county party, that aspect is no longer a thing due to that that legal change. So why does it bring us to where we are tonight? So with the state party, I would say the start of the year made LD chairs aware of of course this change, and that we needed to move forward to create our own bylaws. Historically, LD11 and prior to redistricting, LD27 did not have its own set of bylaws. We just followed the county Democratic Party bylaws, and that's what we use kind of whenever we needed to kind of have like a governing document to break down how we're to operate. So we can no longer do that. So we have to have our own set of bylaws. So how this process basically started is that ADP supply LDs across the state with a template. The template contained, all the common stuff that needs to go into a particular LD's bylaws. It also contains some legally vetted things. One example is the process to remove a PC from their position, because that's happened in other LDs, for unfortunate situations and whatnot. The state party, of course, invested time into creating a process and procedure so that if an organization ever had to go that route, they would, of course, have a legally vetted, process in order to, survive any kind of like potential legal challenge from that affected individual. So other than that, LDs were basically kind of allowed to kind of tweak a lot of the information, kind of customize things and made sense for their particular, legislative districts. So the process that was followed was that the first thing that happened is our executive board, we all took a crack at the document. So we all kind of, took a copy, sat down, and we just kind of worked through it. We then came together, discussed it, talked about like certain aspects that were there, it's maybe, one, say maybe Robert had something that I didn't, and we all kind of looked at it. And so then we kind of agreed upon a first draft. That first draft was shared with PCs and was available for about, I would say, the entirety of the month of April, where, PCs could, view that document, make comments, copies were sent out. We also held a meeting at the end of April for people to, ask any questions or, or have any questions about anything that's contained in there. So that brings us to today. So tonight we're going to be doing a formal vote to establish these bylaws. Basically, kind of how this whole thing is going to work is that we'll need a 2/3 majority of PCs present in order to, of course, get this thing to pass through. Once we pass it, it automatically goes in effect. There's not like, a waiting period or anything like that. So the first thing we need to do is kind of get our numbers together. So I'm going to have the Sergeant at Arms do a roll call of PCs, just so we have a number of how many folks are present. So then, of course, we know what the vote's going to look like. After we do that, we're going to basically do the vote through the Zoom system here. So no, we're not going to be doing any election buddy stuff tonight. So I know we've got some guests on the call here, and we have some people who are, friends of the LD, volunteers of the LD. Since y'all aren't PCs, you can't vote, but you're definitely welcome to stay and watch the show. So, and then of course, once we get that done, we'll go ahead and move through the rest of the meeting here. So, Mr. Sergeant at Arms, could you go ahead and do the roll call, please?
Okay, I see everyone who's on here that I recognize as a PC, but I'll call their names anyhow, just to make sure. Shams, Stadia.
Here.
Shams is present.
Thank you. Forgive me if I pronounce this wrong. Infomia.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, did I pronounce your name right?
No,
Can you pronounce it for me so I make sure I get it right next time?
Euphemia.
Euphemia. Thank you. I'm sorry about that.
That's okay.
Okay, I'm here. David's here. Elizabeth Duncan.
Here.
Mahogany Kennedy. Yep, I see her down there. Sandra Kennedy, Honorable Sandra Kennedy, I see her down there. Joanne Tolbert.
Here.
Kathleen Warren.
Here.
Mahogany Kennedy here. I'm sorry.
That's okay, thank you.
Catherine Warren's here.
Thank you. Signa Oliver.
Here.
Shelby Whalen.
Shelby is here.
Thank you. And then I have some people on here. I'm not sure if they're PCs or not. Is there Kathleen Harris? Are you a PC?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Beth Lewis, are you a PC?
No, I'm not. I'm a guest.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Lewis. Welcome this evening. Ricardo Cerna.
Hello.
I'm
Mr.
also,
Cerna? You're a guest? Okay, thank you. Welcome. Michael Abramson.
no, not a PC.
Thank you. Jen Wanders.
No, I'm a guest.
Welcome. Grant Harrison.
I can't talk.
Hi, I'm not sure. I think I'm still in the in between phase. So I'll
Yeah,
just say no.
I'm going to verify Grant. He has voting rights. He submitted his paperwork, so it's just waiting for the stuff with the board the supervisors go through. But we'll go ahead and recognize him to vote.
Okay. Chester, is it Bokich?
Bokich.
Bokich?
I am a PC.
You're a PC? Okay. And I see 22 people on here. Someone just signed on and signed off. Oh, Jennifer Rouse.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, there are 22 people on this call, and we have 16 PCs in attendance.
All right, so we need 2/3 of 16 PCs to pass this thing. So, all right, so let's get this going. I will entertain a motion to adopt the bylaws of District 11 Democrats effective immediately.
So moved.
Second,
can I-
Constable Kennedy.
Okay.
Mahogany Kennedy.
Okay, just for the record here, so I have who basically so moved. Was that Cigna?
Yes.
Okay, and the second was by Mahogany Kennedy. All right, so we'll go ahead and open this up to discussion. Just please raise your hand if you'd like to make comments or for discussion. Oh, Dave, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. The executive committee has worked a great deal of time on this. We believe we constructed a useful, functional, and rational bylaws to actually operate that conforms with the actual operations of our district committee experience. And I would recommend a pass on that basis.
All right, thank you, Dave. Any other discussion? All right, so I'm going to take all of those hands that aren't being raised as meaning that no one has anything else to say. So we'll go ahead and move this to a vote. So what'll happen is you'll see a little poll pop up on your screen. And so please vote accordingly, and then we will go from there. So go ahead and open the voting now. And for some reason hold on here. Oh, look at that. Okay, because it would be technology when we're trying to do a virtual vote. It's not working. So we'll go ahead and go the plan B. We'll just do a quick roll call vote. Mrs. Sergeant Arms, go ahead and just do a roll call vote. Basically, the vote will be yes, means that you would like to adopt the bylaws. A no would be you do not want these bylaws. And of course, if you don't have an opinion, why I wouldn't wonder why you wouldn't. If you don't have an opinion, you have the option of abstaining. So, Mrs. Sergeant at Arms, why don't you go ahead and do that roll call now?
Okay, I'll start the roll call. Shams?
Yes.
Thank you. Sadia?
Yes.
Thank you. Ifumia?
Yes.
Said it wrong again. Okay, thank you. 3. David Braun?
Yes.
Ms. Duncan?
Yes.
Mahogany Kennedy?
Aye.
Honorable Sandra Kennedy? Ms. Kennedy? Sandra Kennedy? I'll come back to her. Jennifer Rouse?
Yes.
Joanne Tolbert,
Yes.
Kathleen Warren,
Yes.
Signa Oliver,
Aye.
Shelby Whalen,
Yes.
Kathleen Harris,
Aye.
Grant Harrison,
Yes.
Chester Bokich.
Aye.
Come back to the Honorable Sandra Kennedy. Are you there?
I think she might have dropped off. I don't see her name on here.
Yeah,
Okay.
it appears she's dropped
She
off.
dropped off. Okay. And my vote is aye. So it passes 15 to nothing.
Well, 16, because I actually get the vote in this one, so
Oh.
it's 16-0. But anyway, motion passes. We got bylaws. Now we got stuff that y'all could, read through and yell at us if we're not doing. So thank you all for your participation. But we're not done yet, because we got, some guest speakers here to, of course, share some stuff. Now, I am going to pick on one of our elected officials who's here. I see Signa Oliver, who just got done voting on these awesome bylaws. So in your capacity as a board member of Phoenix Union High School District, do you have anything you'd like to share with the delegation here?
Thank you, Patrick. I guess I should put my camera on because you follow the rules. Just walked in the house. Just want to share with you that the governing board has voted in a new interim superintendent, Thea Andrade. We're actually gonna go into negotiations with her next week on her contract for the year until we do the search for a permanent superintendent, which should be underway probably sometime this summer with once we select the search firm. The other big thing that's happening is the governing board is having a study session, 3 this month, where we're gonna take a look at school safety and wellness. And we're gonna actually put together a policy after having heard from the committee, the safety committee that was put together by the board before us, and some other contributors. We are actually going to write policy and set a policy for the school district to follow, and some rules and regulations on, law enforcement piece and accountability piece for students, and all sorts of things that we've been asked by each of our communities to do. So we look forward to that. Our next meeting is in June. I think it's June 4th, and we will vote then on the school safety plan that we put together, and go forward from that. So you can watch us. You can watch any of our meetings on TXU. They are recorded there, and you can watch us have discussions and have the community come before us. So thank you, Patrick, and thank you everybody for listening.
All right, thank you, Signa. All right, any questions for Signa? Anything going on with, for Phoenix Union or anything of that nature? Carmen Terrell.
Hi, yeah, so I have a question. So you said it's on virtually. If it is, then where can I find it?
Carmen, you can go on Phoenix Union, the website for Phoenix Union, and you can go to governing board whenever we're having a meeting, and it'll list when the meetings are coming up. And then there's usually a link through there where you can watch live virtually.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll go ahead and drop that in the chat as well, so it's there. All right, any other questions for Signa? Okay. Let's go into our guest speakers. So first up is we have our first guest for tonight is Beth Lewis. She is the executive director for Save Our Schools Arizona. A little bit about Beth. Beth is a mom, public education advocate, and K-12 policy expert who fights for a fully and equitable funded school for every Arizona child. As director of Save Our Schools Arizona, Beth works to bring parents, educators, elected officials, business leaders, and community members together in support of Arizona's public schools, which strengthen our communities and our great state. Beth has taught elementary and middle school in Arizona for 12 years and has been named a Rodell Exemplar Teacher and a Tempe Diablo Teacher of the Year finalist. She holds a BA from the University of Notre Dame and a master's in education from Arizona State University. So, Beth, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Patrick. Hi, everybody. It's so good to see you. Sorry, I am very tired. I stayed up all night last night watching the budget go down. So operating on very few hours of sleep. Patrick, I had a couple of slides. Could you maybe make me co-host real fast so I can just think it's easier?
Oh yeah, you should be able to share.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, so I one of the co-founders of Save Our Schools Arizona, teacher, and there we go. Thanks, Patrick. I should be able to do this at this point without struggling, but you know. All right, so Save Our Schools Arizona, obviously fighting for public education. I come at this from teaching for 12 years. I really strongly believe in the importance of public education and making sure that every kid has access to an amazing, quality, well-resourced public school in their neighborhood all over our state. And unfortunately, we are moving further and further away from that with every vote, with every action of the legislature, and with this budget that the legislature passed today. I've got a couple updates since we're here. So the budget is passed. It was negotiated by Hobbs. There's nothing in there that shall reject. So the Senate and the House both passed it with a supermajority. Hobbs doesn't really have to do anything. I imagine that she will sign it. It's being messaged as a, large bipartisan win. I think it's important to point out that the entire Freedom Caucus, the extremist far right Republicans, all voted unanimously for every single piece of the budget. So to me, that's a non-starter. That shows me that this is not a perfect budget. It's not something that should just be celebrated. For us in the education space, there were a few wins. There was a waiver of the AEL, the aggregate expenditure limit, so they can't play political football with our kids next year. But really, in terms of new dollars for public education, it was very minimal. And as most of you know, and I've been hearing you talk about tonight, there was no ESA cap or slowdown at all, even though Governor Hobbs came in and promised this. She not only failed to deliver, I would say that she really, by all accounts, failed to really try to deliver. And I'm just going to say that. The program is growing exponentially right now. It's growing at about 1,000 kids per week. There is massive advertising dollars being poured in. And I've actually seen a lot of it in your area in South Phoenix. So I imagine you all are seeing those advertisements from American Federation for Children saying, come use this ESA, come to our presentation. It's in English, it's in Spanish, it's from the Koch funded Libre initiative. It's all over the place. And this voucher program is set to double by 2024, by next year, which means the $500 million that it's draining right now is going to double to $1 billion next year. We tried to warn the governor's office and everybody that was voting on the budget that this is going to be harder and harder to roll back every single year because, you have more and more kids in the program. It's hard to put the toothpaste back in the tube, but there was no fix that was arrived at. Our per pupil spending, no matter, how historic the investment was last year, we're at 47th in the nation in per student spending. I don't think that's going to change from this year whatsoever. There was really pretty minimal increases in investment. And Just for those, it seems like folks here kind of know what a voucher is. I'm glad to take questions in the chat, but just to kind of point out that they're called ESAs, they're called empowerment scholarship accounts. They're put on a debit card. There's no transparency. They're used for private school, but also for micro schools and vendors and homeschools, and they're not used for charter schools. So that's kind of important to know. And you can see the costs. So this has been incrementally expanded for many, many years. And then Ducey came in his last year and passed this giant universal expansion, which just won't stop. You can see here from the screenshots, it is like the wild, wild west in terms of what these things can be used to fund. Anything, I think the running kind of statement from the ADE right now under Superintendent Horn is sort of, if you see it at a public school, you can buy it for your house for homeschool. And for me, it's like, yeah, you can have a baby grand piano at a high school where it'll sit there for 30 years and be used by thousands of students. But putting a baby grand piano in everybody's living room in Phoenix is not a good use of taxpayer dollars when we're already defunded. So there's, all sorts of stuff that's been approved, like bounce houses and espresso machines and, very fancy like horseback riding lessons. And it's completely diluting the idea of what education even means. And there are no curriculum requirements. There's no real safety measures. It's just, what the far right believes is what education should be. And it's really expensive. And it is going mostly to wealthy folks who'd already chosen private schools. There's very little oversight. And, if you're a grifter and you want to set up private school, won't. There we go. You want to set up a private school, you can take whatever kids you want. You don't have to serve special education students. You don't have to serve English language learners. You can turn away a kid with really no explanation. Voucher schools are able to discriminate based on LGBTQ status and a lot of other, classes. And so right now what we're seeing, and I know this is happening in South Phoenix and LD11 in Levine, we're seeing strip mall private schools that are popping up and conveniently charging $7,000, which is the voucher amount. We're seeing charters that are coming in that are no longer charters, like Great Hearts, that are converting to private. We're seeing all sorts of grift. And then we're starting to see neighborhood schools that are laying off teachers, going to 4-day school weeks. Carmen, I know we were talking yesterday about how Cartwright is going to a 4-day school week. And this is just sort of like an emergency measure to keep teachers in the classroom, but it's a 20% cut from those kids' education. And it's really hard on families. So yeah, I know I only have like 5 minutes. So I wanted to give you a quick rundown. The budget's not great in terms of the future of public education. I wish I had better news. I was really, really, really enthused to see that some of our Democrats voted against the K-12 portion of the budget, because they did that to take a stand and say that they didn't agree that there was no ESA cap. And one of them is Oscar de los Santos, one of your elected officials. And Oscar has been just a really powerful leader at the Capitol. He's really used his position to speak a lot of truth. And he, I think, is raising issues from your communities in a way that I don't always see. So I was really proud to see that. Anybody have any questions for me about vouchers or the budget or anything?
All right. We have a question from Carmen. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I apologize, y'all, but because I'm trying to keep this connection with Cartwright and Levine, and check
I don't think I have a definitive answer about Levine. I have heard a lot of school districts moving to 4 days. I know Cartwright is tossing that around. Some schools out in the West Valley that are sort of west of you all. Does it, maybe somebody here knows better than me?
Elizabeth.
Yeah, we just had a meeting the other night too, and no, they're not talking about a 4-day week. They still have a high percentage of the Levine schools here that are A+ schools. Very good program, getting better teachers. They don't have as much shortage as they do like at South Phoenix and the west side of teachers. So the school board is very involved, and they do a lot of recognition. So the teachers have a lot of positive support, which is really good. And I live in Levine, but I taught in South Phoenix for 34 years, and just the difference just divided between 35th Avenue, East and West, just some of the parents' concerns and the support and financial things and stuff too. So Levine's doing good.
Awesome. It's good to hear good news. Thank you.
Yeah.
Our public schools are doing amazing things, and they deserve funding and they deserve support. So it's awesome.
All right. Any other questions? Okay, I'm just going to put in this one comment because obviously education is like one of my like big things here. One thing I want everyone, at least especially walk away from this particular conversation, is to understand that, you know, and I'll just say $7,000 just for argument's sake, because, you know, we can start getting to like minutia. But you got to understand is that when somebody pulls that $7,000 out of a school's budget, that money's gone. It's not like if, you know, they say, oh, I'm going to try, you know, the whole ESA thing. I'm going to homeschool my kid. What are they going to do? That's not like, oh, well, you know, it didn't work out, so I'll just put my child back into the public school and what, you know, I didn't spend goes back in the system. No, that money's gone. And you have to understand that, you know, a public school educates everybody. If a child, you know, chooses to go that, a family chooses to go that route, and if you realize it doesn't work and they say, okay, we're going to send them back to, you know, to Valley View or send them back to wherever, then they are going to, that school is basically operating at a deficit. The big thing is this isn't an accident. It's a lot of historical context that goes along with, you know, the whole ESA. If we go back to, you know, the Brown v. Board of Education decision back in the 50s, schools in the South that did not want to comply with, you know, the integration laws, they attempted to just say, okay, well, you know what, we're just going to shut our public schools down. And for many of those states like Arizona, for example, they had it in their state constitution or law saying that, no, y'all have to educate people. So you can't shut your schools down. You know, that's against the law. So what a lot of those folks did, you know, those districts or areas in southern states, what they decided to do is they said, all right, well, we're just going to build private schools. We're going to have private schools just for white kids. And of course, not every white family could afford to pay for it. So what they did is they created school vouchers so that anyone could attend those schools. And of course, what it did is in many, you know, southern communities, my grandmother, when she was alive, she told me stories about it because she experienced it as a teacher, you know, during that time in the 50s, is that those school districts pretty much disappeared overnight because a lot of money was pulled out of those school districts. And you may have had, you know, state legislatures that were really slow to try and figure out how to fund these schools because a lot of it's, you know, funded with property tax and things like that, you know, local property tax. And so fundamentally you had a educational system for the haves and the have-nots. And so, you know, the reason I tell this little history lesson is to kind of really want everyone to kind of walk away and understand like what's going on here. And that's one reason, you know, I'll bring it back to the Democratic Party side of things. That's one reason why we got to get a majority in the state legislature so we can put stuff like this to bed. The fact of the matter is that, you know, Governor Hobbs made a promise to address this, and we can address that issue, but we also know that the legislature controls the purse strings, and so that's the first stage to end nonsense like this. So I've used my chair privilege too long. I'm gonna go ahead and move on to our next guest speaker. We got two great gentlemen here joining us tonight from the Maricopa County Young Democrats. I want to take a moment to introduce them. First individual is Michael Abramson. He's currently the policy director for the Maricopa County Young Democrats and the advocacy coordinator for the Women's Foundation for the state of Arizona. He graduated in 2022 with his master's in social work from Northern Arizona University, and he loves to make the connections between social work and public policy. Joining him is Ricardo Serna. Many of y'all should know him because he's joined us many times before in the past. He's the president of the Maricopa County Young Democrats. A little bit about Ricardo. He was born and raised in the south side of Chicago. Growing up, he faced numerous challenges such as poverty, gang, and gun violence. Ricardo struggled with academics, often act down in class and getting bad grades, and almost dropping out of high school. After graduation, he had no productive or social activities, which led him further into the streets and trouble. Eventually, Ricardo developed a drug addiction and began spiraling out of control. However, his life took a turn for the better when he found a job doing campaign organizing. This opportunity changed his life, and Ricardo moved from Chicago to Phoenix to become a community organizer. Over the last 8 years, he has worked on campaigns totaling 37 and has become the president of the Maricopa County Young Democrats. Under his leadership, the organization's membership has grown to be over 3,000%, and its fundraising increased to over 8,000%. Ricardo is also now a small business owner focusing on political consulting and government affairs. He recently became a father of an absolutely adorable kid, and which has become a new source of inspiration for his work as a community organizer. Ricardo's story is a testament to the power of resilience and the ability to turn one's life around. So I've done enough talking. Gentlemen, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Patrick. I do quickly want to comment on something before we get into our stuff, on something Beth was talking about, which was like the process of these negotiations. And I also think, Patrick, to touch on your point a little bit, it depends, I think, on who, on not just us getting a majority, but who we put in the legislator that gives us that majority, because my number one problem with this whole budget negotiation problems is that the governor knows that the Republicans have leverage, and so she is willing to entertain them more, entertain their conversations more, because she knows that they're willing to take these negotiations and they have that leverage and they're not afraid to use it. And it's because they're not afraid to use it that the governor operates, in my opinion, from a position of, from a defensive position. And so if this budget, for those of you that don't know, if this budget doesn't pass and sometime like in the end of June or something like that, right? I think the government shuts down, right? And then the Republicans can turn around and say, look, it's the Democrats, it's Katie Hobbs, blah, 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 right? That's what Democrats are afraid of. That's what Katie Hobbs is afraid of. Because Republicans are willing to take these negotiations. The problem with that theory is that you are operating from a defensive standpoint about, oh, what are we going to do with what the Republicans are going to say, instead of going on offense, using her position as governor to go around and make the argument that we need to put a cap on these for fiscal on the vouchers for fiscal reasons. Go around, do town halls, instead of just meeting behind closed doors with the elites in our state. Go around the state, make your argument as to why we need these caps, and if Republican, and then paint the Republicans as the extremists that are willing to shut down the government because they're willing to give free handouts to these corporate interests in the school voucher system. So, but instead of doing that, they want to play defense and they want to play scared about what are Republicans going to do. And Democrats, honestly, in the House and Senate are willing to go along with the governor, and that's why she's willing to not bring them to the table like she brings Republicans to the table, because at the end of the day, she knows Democrats are just going to go along with her anyway. And until our caucuses stand up for themselves as an equal branch of government, and also as our voices at the State House, right? Like, she didn't just shut down these legislators, she shut down our voices. Until the caucus is ready to stand up and show that, hey, like, we're willing to do the same. We're willing to tank these negotiations too, unless you bring us in. And I'm not saying that's necessarily what they have to do, but she's going to continue treating them like this until the caucus grows a backbone. And that's just the truth of the matter. And we can say it's not the right time or whatnot, but this is not even an argument that we were able to have as a party openly to decide what is the right strategy, because the governor decided to do this behind closed doors. And that's my biggest issue with this budget negotiation whole process. So that's just my little 2 cents on that, actually. And then I want to pass it over to Michael to talk a little bit about our policy committee. And I guess if you want to talk a little bit about the budget too, you can.
I think you covered it pretty well on my emotions and feelings. But so yeah, as Patrick and Ricardo mentioned, I have the pleasure of being the policy director for MCYD. I was elected this past January, and I think since January we've been really active as an organization when it comes to having a presence related to policy work, when it comes to doing a lot of this work as well. Just to highlight a little bit of what we've been doing, we've met with, I want to say we've met with every senator and I believe almost every House Democrat between January and now. We're trying to make sure that we establish a presence, that they know who we are, the kind of work that we do, and what kind of a presence that we're striving to have as well. Within those meetings, we also try to make sure that we're educated on all the topics at the Capitol, so we can always relay that information to our members as well. So, I mean, that's gone from the housing bills, that's gone from some of the controversial reproductive rights education bills, and a variety of topics that we make sure that we're always kind of pressing, making sure we have insider information as well on when it comes to talking to the legislators. That has also expanded to us making sure that we've connected with city officials as well. So I think we've been well connected to both the city of Tempe and the city of Phoenix, and we're looking to expand from there. Again, talking to the council members, the mayors as well, and again, understanding their policy priorities, what their perspective is on a lot of topics, and how can we implement that? How do they align with what we're trying to focus on as well? And our goal, our vision is to really expand our work from there. So with that being said, we're working on establishing a policy committee that I'll have the pleasure of spearheading. It'll include a lot of the work that we just mentioned, but it'll also include a lot of work that, again, as we become resources to our members, we're also trying to expand and become resources to the legislators that we work with as well. So for anybody interested, it would be an opportunity to get involved with us. You would be working on policy analysis work when it comes to legislative session. It would be doing assessments on some of the bills as well. It would be being a resource to legislators, working on analysis work, identifying research areas as well. That's something that we've had the benefit of being to a few of the legislators we've been working with as well. And then it's, again, reporting back all that information to our members. We've been, something we've kicked off this year as well as having our policy talks, where again, we spend 10 to 20 minutes really educating about a variety of topics. For anybody that will be looking to come to our upcoming meeting, which will be a couple Sundays from now, I want to say the 28th.
May 28th. May 28th.
Yeah, thank you. May 28th, the focus will be on educating on zoning related to housing. Last week, we talked a lot about displacement, and in the months before that, we focused on women's equity issues related to the pink tax and feminine hygiene products as well. So on the policy side, that's just the tip of the iceberg of what we're really planning to do coming into this next year as well. So I'll pass it back to you, Ricardo, unless there's anything else you want me to touch on.
No, that's it. Thank you, Michael. Michael is such a gift to us, honestly. So he's so brilliant and very dependable when it comes to all of the policy issues that are coming down at the legislature. He briefs us on a lot of these matters, and we go into our meetings well informed and knowing what it is that we want to advocate for. And he's been doing a great job with our policy talks at our monthly meetings. It's a new thing that we've been doing this year, and I think our members have really enjoyed those conversations. So Michael has been a great addition to our board, and we're really happy to have him.
Thank you for that. And then one thing I forgot to mention, actually, when it does come to the budget, I've taken the time to either with the organizations I'm a part of or kind of skimming through it as well. I'm also working on sending out some information related to a lot of the important line items that I feel like are relevant to a lot of the work that we all do in different spaces as well. So for anybody that is on our email newsletter, you have the pleasure of expecting that to come out as well, linked with the JLBC summary of the budget. So
Cool, thank you, Michael. Hello, everyone. As Patrick mentioned earlier, my name is Ricardo. I'm the president of the Maricopa County Young Democrats. I was elected back in April of 2021, and I was just reelected in this past January. A little bit about the history of the Young Democrats. We go back almost 2 decades. It's kind of hard to actually pinpoint exactly when we got started. The earliest documents that I can find are like 2000, I think like 2007, 2008-ish. I think it kind of spawned out of partly the Democratic primaries that happened 2007, 2008 with Barack Obama. But the organization kind of died out after 2008, came back in 2010. But over that decade between 2010 and 2020, the organization was fairly inconsistent. I can say that, to be honest with you guys, it was fairly inconsistent. It really depended on who was leading the organization. Some years they were more active than others. But for the most part, this organization was really more like a social networking happy hour type of club. And I'm really happy to say that we've really done a lot to reform this this organization to be a lot more than that. And we're going to get into some of the things that we do. But first, we're going to talk about the youth vote, and then we're going to get into youth organizing. So, as we all know, in politics, in particular electoral politics, you win some and you lose some. So Democrats had really big battles in 2022. Of course, we had Kari Lake, Mark Fincham, Abe Hamadeh, Tom Horne at the top of the ticket. Unfortunately for us, we got Tom Horne as superintendent of public instruction. We lost a really great Democrat in Kathy Hoffman. And that was very unfortunate for us, but luckily we were able to avoid some of the worst folks at the top of the ticket, like Kari Lake, Mark Fincham, and Abe Hamadeh. When it came to the state legislature, we actually did a lot better than what a lot of Democrats had thought we were going to do. And so we were able to pick up some seats in the East Valley that I think a lot of us were hopeful for, but maybe a little doubtful that we would be able to pick up all of the seats. I'm talking about LD 9. We were very fortunate to pick up all 3 of those seats. 2 of those people being Maricopa County Young Democrats, Seth Blattman and Lorena Austin. LD 4, we were able to hold Laura Terrick's seat. LD 2, Judy Schreiber. Stacey Travers in 13, I think. And so we did a lot better, but I hear this a lot about how good we did in this past midterm election when it came to the legislative races, but the reality is that we still lost. We don't have a majority in either chamber, and so we can't get too comfortable when we think we're going to lose really bad and we don't lose as bad as we did. That's not a way that we should be running campaigns or our party. And then in Congress, there was a big important seat that we came pretty close in CD1. Jevin Hodge, a young Democrat as well, unfortunately wasn't able to take out David Schweiker, one of the worst Republicans we have in the state of Arizona, and all of Congress really. And unfortunately, he still represents the state of Arizona with not much integrity, unfortunately. But like I said, you win some and you lose some. So what is the biggest obstacle that we're seeing for the Democrats? Well, it's the undervote. For those of you that don't know what an undervote is, an undervote occurs when the number of distinct choices selected by a voter in a contest is less than the minimum number allowed for that contest, or when no selection is made for a single choice contest. So for example, when you guys are voting for your state representatives, you can vote for up to 2 people. But if you decide to just vote for one person, you are considered an undervote. When you vote for the House of Representatives for Congress, you can vote for one person, a Republican or Democrat or independent if there's an independent race. You can only vote for one person, but if you decide to vote for none of them, you are considered an undervote. Now, in some cases, undervoting may be a strategic single shot theory in like some of the LDs or in some of those cases. But I can tell you right now that the reason this is the biggest obstacle has nothing to do with Democrats being super strategic. It is a problem. And the problem is that our voters aren't educated on a lot of these down ballot races. And I can tell you right now, a big chunk of these undervotes are young voters. And when it comes to young voters, regardless if they're registered as a Democrat or even if they are a progressive independent, if they don't know who that Democrat is that is running on that down ballot race, or if they don't know what that position does, they're just going to leave it blank. They're not going to choose the Democrat just because they're a Democrat. They would rather leave it blank. And we see that across young people across all ethnicities and races. And so we need to do a better job of educating our voters. And we're going to be educating young voters on some of these down ballot races so that we can address this undervote issue that we're having, that we could otherwise be winning important races like superintendent of public instruction. So that's just one of the things, many things that we need to address as Democrats. So why do we want to target young voters? Well, from 2016 to 2020, young voter turnout increased by 18% in the presidential election, up to 51%, which was the highest turnout since 1971. Does anyone quickly want to come off of mute and let me know what was happening in 1971? Anyone? No? Well, what was happening in 1971 was the Vietnam War, right? And so there was mass protests from young people, and so much so that young people lowered the voting age from 21 to 18. That's how impactful the youth movement was at that time. And we haven't seen voter turnout that high in decades until these past election cycles. And so while we saw that increase from 2016 to 2020 to 51%, in 2020 in the 2022 election cycle, we did see a decrease of youth voter turnout from 51% to 31%. However, this is actually an increase from the previous midterm election from 26% in 2018 to 31% in 2022. And so when you're comparing turnout for election years, you want to use comparable election years. So presidential election years with presidential election years and midterm election years with midterm election years. But our aim is to increase turnout in all election cycles for young people to the presidential levels at that 51%. We know this is a lofty goal, but we would rather aim high than aim low. So the so in 2022, the youth voter turnout 18 to 29 was the second highest turnout in a midterm election in the past 30 years around the nation, which was at 27%. But Arizona actually outpaced the nation with youth voter turnout at 31%. There was also a 6% more young people ages 18 to 24 registered to vote than there were in November of 2022 than there were in November 2018. And in Arizona specifically, we received a 5% increase in that time period for folks registered to vote that are 18 to 24-year-olds. However, in 2022, Arizona was behind on voter registration among 18 to 19-year-olds by 24% compared to 2018. So there's still a lot of work to do. Young voters were crucial to Arizona's gubernatorial race. In Arizona's governor's race, Katie Hobbs won by 20,000 votes, and young people provided her with a net gain of 60,000 votes towards her over Kari Lake. So if it wasn't for this historic youth turnout, there's a good chance we would be having these budget discussions with Governor Kari Lake. And for as many flaws as Katie Hobbs has, they pale in comparison to Kari Lake. And I don't say that to get Katie off of the hook for the BS that she did pull with this budget stuff, but it is a reality, right? Like if we had Kari Lake, these budget negotiations would be a lot more horrendous. When we look at the impact on the Senate election, exit poll data showed that 76% of young voters voted for Mark Kelly. 18 to 29-year-olds were at 76%, 30 to 44-year-olds were at 58%, and then the older that the age ranges get, we see them leaning for Republicans. Youth voter turnout. When we look at youth voter turnout across the nation, when we look at the House of Representatives specifically, ages 18 to 29-year-old came out at 63% for the Democrat. Ages 30 to 44 at 51% for the Democrat. And then the older that the age ranges get, the more they come out for Republicans. Now, when we look at specifically the youth vote choices in the House of Representatives across race and ethnicities, we see really, really huge turnouts for Democrats amongst Black youth coming out at 87%, Latino youth coming out at 67%, white youth coming out at 57%, and it's not on here, but Asian youth as well coming out at 77%. So when we look at our Democratic spaces, often, and I go to a lot of different LDs and a lot of different Democratic clubs, our Democratic spaces are not reflective of the people that are voting for us. When we look at who's voting for us, who's making up our voters, who's putting our party officials, our party leaders in positions of power, we don't see a bunch of Black youth at these Democratic get-togethers, right? We don't see 2/3 Latino youth. We do have a lot of Latino youth, I will say, in the Democratic Party. That's one of the, I guess, areas that we've made good strides in. We don't see a bunch of AAPI youth, though, a bunch of Black youth, a bunch of Native American youth. We don't see those faces reflective in our spaces. And this is also no different in the Maricopa County Young Democrats or any of the Young Democrats. Now, we, over the past 2 years, have done a much better job of making our space inclusive, but we have to get better, and all Young Democrat organizations have to get better, because historically, our organizations have really just been for white affluent people, middle class, upper middle class, people that come from rich families and have a college degree. That's who historically the Young Democrats have been. I'm happy to say now that we have become a lot more inclusive. We have folks that come from all walks of life and have come from all sorts of backgrounds, not just from college, but working class people, union members, people that never went to college, people that did go to college. We have a lot more of an inclusive space, but we as a Democratic Party have to do a much, much better job of being much more inclusive and having our spaces reflect the faces of the people that vote us into these powerful positions. When we look at youth vote and how crucial it was to some of the key races across the country, the Georgia Senate race, the Nevada Senate race, the Pennsylvania Senate race, the blue represents the net youth vote for Democrats. The green represents the vote margin in the race. We see that this historic youth turnout really contributed to a lot of these important races: Wisconsin governor, Arizona governor, Kansas governor race. If it wasn't for these historic youth turnout, we would not have seen these victories in these important key races. So where can MCYD make a prominent impact? Well, since the inception of the Young Democrats have served as a vehicle for young professionals to make their leap into Democratic politics. People like Anna Lynn Abetia, who is the Cartwright School Board member, governing school board member, and also our events director. Cesar Aguilar, who is the state representative for LD 26. Ellie Perez, who's the first Dreamer DNC delegate from Arizona, also the AEA political director, the Arizona Education Association, for those of you that may not know. And then Juan Mendez, he used to be the president of the Arizona Arizona State University Young Democrats. He's now the senator from LD8. So we know right now we're seeing a historic youth turnout. MCYD can capitalize on this historic youth turnout, and we can identify, organize, and train the next generation of Democratic leaders for generations to come. So how do we make that impact? Well, like I mentioned, we know young people are engaged now more than ever. When we look at the voter change from 2016 to 2018 amongst youth vote, we saw a lot of change across the country, a lot of young people coming out, but Arizona led the nation at plus 18%. So we had the most change in an increase in voter turnout. So we want to, like I said, capitalize on that youth turnout. And we know we have the ability to educate these young voters and provide them with the resources for them to make an informed vote. And we know when young people feel like they're informed and they know what these races are, they know who the candidates are, they're going to vote for the Democrat. I showed you those numbers earlier, overwhelmingly, especially young people of color, but young people across the board. They come out and they vote for the Democrat when they feel like they are informed, that they know what these races are and who those Democrats are in those races. So that's where we come in. We're going to provide a tailored youth voter guide. Republicans have this thing called a golden ticket where they tell their people how to vote. We're going to have something similar. We're also going to have a canvassing team and a texting campaign as well to really reach out to as many folks as possible. And we know that if we engage young people in this way, that, well, for one, the reason older voters come out at such high numbers is because they get spent billions of dollars doing outreach to these folks, educating these folks on all of the different races that are going on, candidates spending thousands, if not millions of dollars reaching out to older voters. And so it's no surprise that older voters come out at such high numbers. If we want to see young voters continue to come out at such high numbers, we need to make that same investment in engaging young voters. And we know that when we do that, we can create a lineup of campaign staff and Democratic Party leadership for decades to come. So in the short term, we want to continue the historic youth turnout. We want to maintain the gains that we made in 2018, 2020, and 2022. We want to contribute to new gains to be made in 2024. We're going to do that with youth voter guides with QR codes to connect them to resources so that they don't just know what's going on at the top of the ticket, but they can have resources for some of the down ballot stuff. So one of the things, just give you a quick example, a lot of people don't know who judges are. I hear it all the time, especially from young people, who the hell are these judges? How should I vote for them? There's this organization called Gavel Watch that has a spreadsheet every single election cycle, tells you how to vote or what their recommendation is for voting on these judges. Spoiler alert, they tell you to vote against all of them because they all suck. But they don't just tell you to vote against them. They give you reasons. They say, hey, these were the different rulings and why we're giving this recommendation. And so we know if we can provide that to enough young people are gonna use that and vote for those, vote against those bad judges because they're gonna have the resource and know how to vote. So we're going to provide those youth voter guides with QR codes. We're going to do some grassroots video ads that we're going to put on social media. We're going to have a whole social media campaign on top of our canvassing and texting Get Out the Vote campaign. In the long term, we want to increase the involvement of young people of color. We want to increase the number of precinct committee people in all of the LDs. We want to increase youth voter registration and Pebble registration. I know it's not called AVIL, but I refuse to call it AVIL. I'm calling it Pebble. We also want to provide resources like connecting folks to their local representatives. We want to provide job opportunities for folks and provide professional development for folks. For us, we see ourselves as more than just a political organization, more than just a Democratic club. We really want to be rooted in the community. To us, this is more than just connecting young people to a campaign so they can go and knock doors. We want to be more of a resource hub for young people. One of the things that is most important, I think, in a young person's development into becoming a young professional is mentorship. And so that's why for us, our organization, we serve Democrats under the age of 40. And I know we kind of stretched the definition of young a little bit, but we believe that a 35-year-old, a 38-year-old has a lot in common politically with, you know, an 18-year-old, a 17-year-old, but also they typically represent the young voices in a lot of these Democratic spaces because fortunately and unfortunately, a lot of these spaces tend to lean on the older side. The average age is probably 65, 70 in a lot of these Democratic spaces. So a 38-year-old is often the young voice in the room representing the young perspective. So we want to make sure that we have those folks in our organization so they know how to properly advocate for us when they are in those spaces. But also we want to make sure that we're bridging young people who are looking to become young professionals and connecting them with, you know, those young professionals that have already been, you know, doing their thing for a little while now, and we can connect these young people and they can get the mentorship in whatever field that they feel that they want to pursue. And I think that's one of the most important things that we can do for young people if we want to ensure that they are successful and they're on the right track. So that's some of the things that we want to do. We want to be that space for people. We want to provide them with opportunities like connections with unions. We're building out our relationship with unions, and we're building out pipelines where we can have members directly go into union apprenticeships. We just started a partnership with Phoenix Union. So we're going to be going into all of the schools doing voter registration during the career days and job fairs. We are going to be there providing them with different job opportunities that come our way so that folks can get those opportunities that historically have only gone to, again, white, affluent, college graduate type of folks. We're going to be doing a lot better job of actually being in our communities and giving opportunities to folks that typically don't get these type of opportunities. So how do we know that we're being impactful? When we meet or exceed the voter turnout from past comparable elections, increase the number of young people registered for PEVL, increase the number of young people of color's participation both in voting but also in our party, and when we increase our own membership. So really quickly, some of the things that we've been able to accomplish. Like I mentioned before, our organization historically has been very inconsistent. It really depended on who the leadership was. And that really came to a boiling point in 2020 because of COVID. We almost ceased to exist because of COVID and the lack of involvement and organizing that was happening with our organization. So when I became president in 2021, we were really only down to 6 active members in our organization. So with those 6 members, we went to work. We modernized our bylaws, which hadn't happened in over a decade. We established a bank account so we can start fundraising, and we centralized a list of members. And so now we have a working membership list, and we've increased our membership by over 3,000%. So we started off with 6 members in 2021. 6 members in 2021, and we've grown to over 185 members as of today. We've also, our membership also meets monthly now. We meet every 4th Sunday at 6 p.m. at the MCDP headquarters near downtown Phoenix. And over the past year, we put together over 36 events, and we turned out over 1,000 Democrats to those events. And we donated over 2,000 food and pet items to charity. And in the last 90 days on social media, we've been able to reach over 18,000 Democrats across all of our social media platforms. So with all of that being said, please, please, please become a supporter of the Maricopa County Young Democrats. We could really use your support. There's many different ways that you can become a supporter. One of the most easiest ways is just follow us on all of our social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We also now have a TikTok. You can find all of our links on our link tree so that you can follow us on all of our social media platforms. The best way to support us on those platforms is liking our stuff, sharing, retweeting, reposting, and commenting. The more that you engage with our content, commenting is very important too. The more that you engage with the content, the more that the algorithm picks it up and puts it in front of other people. So just by you leaving a comment, it significantly increases the chance that it gets in front of another person, and that could be another young person that you help activate just by leaving a comment or liking our picture. Another way that you can become a supporter, just by coming to our events and attending the events that we put together. I'm gonna let you know about some events that we have coming up in a moment. Another way that you can support us is by becoming a donor. In our link tree, you will find a button that says donate, and you can donate to MCYD. The best way to support us long-term is becoming a monthly contributor to our cause. And we really appreciate anything that you're willing to give. If it's $2, $5, 20, 50, 500, a million, like Patrick said, and I'm just kidding. Yeah, anything that you're willing to give, we're very, very appreciative of. And then lastly, another way that you can support us is by telling a young person, anyone under the age of 40, tell them, join the Maricopa County Young Democrats. We're doing some awesome stuff. Come join, be a part of it. Those are ways that you can become supporters. Also, if you know anyone that works with young people, that works in a space that has a lot of young people, connect us, being able to bridge us and connect us to folks like that really helps us a lot to be able to engage other young people. So those are the different ways that you can support the Maricopa County Young Democrats. Some events that we have coming up. Next week, next Tuesday, we have our first ever Young Democrats Gala that we're putting together. It's going to be on 43rd Avenue and Camelback at Legends Event Center from 5:30 to 7:30. Patrick, I think you should have gotten an invitation and some information about that.
Yeah, we did. It's going to go out in our newsletter that goes out on Sunday.
Perfect. So I hope you folks can join us for that. Later on the 21st of this month, we're going to be doing a movie night at the MCDP headquarters. So please join us for that. We'll send out some information on that before Sunday so that it can go out in the newsletter too. On the 28th, we have our monthly meeting, and that is open to the public, so you don't have to be a Young Democrat to join us for that. If you want to sit in on our meetings and listen to our conversations, we've had people from all across the valley that come in and sit in and listen to our meetings, and oftentimes they'll come up to me at the end of the meeting, they'll be like, wow, I'm super happy I came. Just listening to you guys' conversation and the things that you guys are doing really gives me hope. So I want to offer, an open invitation to all of you all to join us if you ever want to hear what Young Democrats think on the different issues that are going on in our state. In June, so the reason we're doing this gala next week, in June, we have a trip to the Young Democrats of America convention. And we're lucky enough that this year it's in driving distance from us, because typically these conventions happen on the East Coast. Last one happened in Buffalo, next one's happening in Miami. The one that's coming up in June, though, this one's happening in Las Vegas. So it's in driving distance from us. And when I went last time, that was the first time that we had gone in a long time. Actually, the president of the Young Democrats of America, Q, he told me, he said, Ricky, I've been trying to get in touch with Young Democrats in Arizona for years now, and we haven't been able to get in touch with you guys. We didn't know if any youth organizing was going on. And to be honest, you guys lost out on national resources because we couldn't get in touch with any of the Young Democrats these past couple election cycles. So because we've lost out on those national resources, I told Q, I said, Q, when you guys come out to Vegas, I promise you, we're going to bring at least a dozen Young Democrats from Arizona, and we're going to show you how active we are, how serious we are about organizing here. And we're going to show you the talent behind all of that great youth voter turnout that we've been seeing in Arizona. We're going to show you the great Young Democrats that we have in our state, the talented Young Democrats that we have in our state. And so that's what this gala is about. We're going to fundraise money so that we can take our Young Democrats on this trip and show the national organization that we are worth a national investment here in Arizona. So I hope you all can join us for that. And with that being said, I will take any questions.
All right. Do we have any questions from the audience? Signa?
Hi, Ricardo and Michael. I already had my little message to you in the chat, and I'll go ahead and put it in there. But I know that Civic Engagement Beyond Voting also has a youth arm of it, and maybe you all need to get in contact with them if you need help in having a contact. I can do that for you. I am so impressed by what you do. And the second question is, I think I know the answer. Is Maricopa County Young Democrats a 501c3?
No, we are a political action committee.
You are a political action committee? I think
That
I
makes
can
you
still-
C4. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a C4. Okay. All right. I was gonna, I have some campaign money I'm trying to get rid of, but
Well, we can take from like if you're making a contribution from your campaign,
Mhm.
we can accept those donations to our organization.
Okay, well, I will get a hold of you guys if I can get I'll get your information from Patrick and then
Thank you.
move those funds over. Okay, thank you.
And Signa, you sit on the board of Phoenix Union.
Yes, yeah. So I was happy to hear that you've already linked up with us because I've already been talking with the Civic Engagement Youth. And we would welcome you on our campuses, especially because, you know, our seniors, whether they're 18 or not, as long as they're 18 before the next election cycle, you guys can get them registered and be proactive that way. So I'm all about that. Hit me on my Phoenix Union email, and we'll see what we can do to help you.
We're putting on a shoe drive for you all in either July, or we may, it depends if we can work out a date, but we're gonna put on a shoe drive for Phoenix Union, as well as the Cartwright Elementary School District as well.
Yeah, and I got some more buddies on different school districts, so I'll spread the love around and let them know about you guys. Okay.
Awesome, thank you.
All right.
And it took a little work to get that partnership with Phoenix Union, because
I know.
yeah, because you know we are a partisan organization, so they try to steer a little clear, but we have a really good relationship actually with the Young Republicans, and so if there's any events that we do get invited to, we often reach out to the Young Republicans too, and so that way it covers your guys' end. And we want to be good partners in that too. So we want to make sure that you all don't get in trouble with anything like that. So we reach out to the Young Republicans. We have a really good relationship with them. And so we're going to be partnering up to do some work on some of the schools. And so if there's anything that you know that's coming up that you think would be good for us to attend with the Phoenix Union school districts, whether it's as a district as a whole or a specific school that has something going on, please let us know. We'd be happy to show up.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. Well, Ricardo, Michael, thank you guys for joining us. You know, everything you said is on point. You know, like I said, we can't win these elections without engaging all our community, especially, you know, our young voters. So yeah, like I said, everything is really, really amazing. Thank you for joining us. Like I said, we're a little bit over time, but you know, when it's good information, you know, it's worth it. So I was going to open up the floor for any like announcements. Please keep your announcements quick, because I don't know about some of y'all, but I think a lot of us are kind of sleep deprived this week. So I'm sure folks just want to get to bed or I don't know, watch TV or something. So do we have any announcements for the good of the order? Okay, announcements going once, going twice. All right, thank you guys for attending. Like I said, we got bylaws. We got some good information about what's going on in our schools, what's going on with our Young Democrats. Like I said, if you missed anything that was covered, any links or whatnot, you can definitely catch in our newsletter and in the video recap of this meeting that will be in our newsletter and our YouTube page. So with that being said, thank you for joining us tonight. You guys have a good rest of your evening, good rest of your week, and we'll see you next time.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.